This story tells of children stolen from their homes, forced into a life of servitude, and trapped in the shadows of gilded halls. Inspired by true events, it reveals the cruel reality of a world where innocence is stripped away, obedience is demanded, and survival comes at the cost of everything you once were. Watch closely, because in these walls, pain is only the beginning. Shadows of a forgotten name, you wake up to darkness. Not the soft darkness of a night under the stars, nor the comforting shadows of your room at home. This darkness is thick, heavy, as if it were alive. Your body feels small, unfamiliar, pressed against the cold stone beneath you. The air is thick with dust and silence, but not a silence of peace. It is a silence of waiting, of something held back and sharp. You do not remember how you came here. Your last memories are fragments, scattered like shards of glass in your mind, the smell of pine from the mountains you once called home, your father's deep voice calling you to dinner, laughter echoing across sunlit hills. Those memories feel distant, unreal, as though someone else's life were stitched into your mind. The room you are in has no windows. Thick stone walls trap every sound, every breath, and every thought. You are not alone. Other boys lie curled on straw mats, shadows of children who once had names, homes, families. Some glance at you briefly, eyes hollow or wary. None speak at first. Then one leans closer, whispering a single word. "Call yourself this," he says. "It is not your name. Your real name is forbidden here. Too strange, too foreign, too dangerous. It falls away from you like leaves in the wind." You do not argue. You barely remember it anyway. Soon, you will learn the rules. They are not written, not spoken aloud. You serve in silence. You move when told. You stand when watched. You smile when commanded. Every act of obedience is measured, every hesitation punished. And yet, in the quiet moments, you catch glimpses of the world beyond these walls. A torch flickering down a corridor, voices laughing far away, shadows moving across marble floors that you will never walk upon. Your first nights are a blur of touch and motion. Older slaves tend to you, scrub your skin, comb your hair, dress you in clothes not for warmth, but for display. Every gesture reminds you, you are no longer a child of the mountains, no longer your father's son. You exist to serve, to endure, to vanish. And yet, amid the fear, there is curiosity. You watch the adults from the edges of the halls, listening to their words, noting their habits, their laughter, the moments their eyes linger too long. You are at night, when the others sleep or tremble quietly in their cells. You lie awake. Your mind drifts to places you cannot go, to voices you cannot hear. The stars, the fields, the trees of your childhood, they haunt you in fragments, like whispers you can almost touch. And in those moments, you understand something. You may be broken, shaped by cruelty, but inside, a part of you remains untouched. A shadow of the days settle into a rhythm you never asked for, a rhythm dictated by others, a rhythm that leaves no room for your own heartbeat. Every step you take is measured, every glance observed, every breath accounted for. The older slaves watch you as you move, their eyes mirrors of what you might become if you fail. Your hands are rough from tasks you barely understand, your arms sore from carrying trays and lighting lamps. A stumble earns a sharp rebuke, sometimes a strike across your shoulder, leaving your skin tingling long after the pain fades. The strikes are not always physical. Sometimes it is a word, a glance, a whispered reprimand that chills you more than any hand. The masters do not need to raise their voices. Control is in their calmness, their deliberate precision. You begin to notice patterns. Which guests laugh cruelly? Which ones linger with their gaze too long? Which words signal danger? Every meal, every gathering is a game you cannot win, a maze of intentions and power you are forced to navigate. One night you spill wine in the hall. A guest notices. His smile is polite, but his eyes sharpen. "Careful," he says, voice low. You nod, hands trembling. Later, the strike lands. Not heavy, but precise, meant to remind, to mark, to teach obedience. The older boys whisper warnings in corners. "Do not flinch," says Timon. "Do not cry." Nico's eyes, scarred and distant, seem to swallow your hesitation. "Survive," he murmurs. "Learn what they want, then give it without question." Survival becomes a calculus, a cold math you practice silently. Every reaction, every blink, every smile is calculated. You are no longer a boy, you are a study in endurance. And yet, the guest's intentions twist further. There are hands that linger on your arm, that brush too close as you pass plates. A laugh here, a comment there. You do not understand fully, but you feel the weight, the expectation, the unspoken demand. You flinch. You try to step back, but the gaze pins you. The older slaves avert their eyes, as if acknowledgement would make it worse. You learn quickly. The world does not protect the powerless. Sleep comes in fragments. Sometimes it is a brief closing of your eyes, a few hours of unconsciousness on the straw mat. Dreams are cruel, blending past and present. The mountains of your childhood appear, but the wind carries whispers of the marble halls, the laughter, the eyes that watch. You awaken gasping, heart hammering, unable to separate memory from reality. Weeks pass, maybe months. Time is meaningless, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun you rarely see. You carry the bruises quietly, internalizing every correction. Your body is a map of obedience, your face a mask of neutrality. Inside, however, a storm rages: anger, fear, confusion. You have learned to suppress it, to fold it neatly beneath the layers of compliance. Still, there are moments, fleeting, fragile, when you glimpse the boy you once were. A scent of pine in the corridor, a shadow of a tree outside a distant window, a voice that recalls laughter. You clutch these moments tightly, secret treasures in a world designed to strip you bare. And in the quietest hours, you begin to watch the newcomers. Boys dragged from their homes, terrified, clutching their names as though saying them aloud could keep them alive. Their fear is raw, untempered. You know what awaits them: the sharp words, the hands that push, the unrelenting expectation of obedience. And in this knowledge, something unexpected blooms, an impulse to guide, to shield, to pass on what you have learned in silence. The masters never see it. They see only the polished surface, the obedient form. You smile when told, bow when required, pour wine without hesitation. Yet beneath that surface, you begin to collect stories, not just yours, but theirs. Every whispered question, every trembling hand, every glance of despair becomes a thread. You begin weaving a quiet record, a secret memory of survival. One evening, during a gathering more lavish than usual, the atmosphere thick with wine and incense, a new boy arrives. He is younger than you remember being, eyes wide and untrusting. The guests notice him, of course, and begin to test his reactions, their amusement sharp and cutting. You watch from the corner, instinct urging you to step in, but your position forbids interference. Instead, you note his movements, his hesitation, the tremor in his fingers. You see yourself mirrored in him, and it both frightens and strengthens you. Later, in the safety of your cell, you trace his path in your mind, rehearsing what you could have done, what you could do next time. Survival is not enough. Endurance is hollow without purpose. You begin to understand that power here is not in strength, but in knowledge, in observation, in the ability to navigate cruelty without surrendering entirely. And so you continue. Each day, each night, each whispered warning, each small act of careful defiance becomes part of a larger rhythm. You are learning to endure, to watch, to remember. The masters control your body, but not entirely your mind. The boy in the corner, trembling, unaware, will be the first recipient of what you have stored in silence. And in that act, in that passing of memory, you reclaim something lost. A fragment of humanity in a world designed to erase it. Time has blurred into an unbroken rhythm of tasks, commands, and quiet observation. The days feel like endless corridors, each indistinguishable from the last, yet your mind sharpens in ways your body cannot. You have learned to watch without being seen, to note every twitch of a hand, every glance across the hall, every subtle shift in tone. The master's cruelty is predictable, but only to those who have survived long enough to recognize its pattern. Inside you, something stirs. A quiet, stubborn awareness that refuses to be erased. You are no longer just a vessel for their amusement, a polished tool for entertainment. You are the observer. Every whispered conversation, every smile that hides a threat, every step taken on polished floors is cataloged in your mind. You see the young boys arrive, wide-eyed, trembling, and for a moment, you see yourself reflected in them, the fear, the confusion, the desperate hope that somehow the world will be different this time. You begin to measure the cruelty, not as a child who flinches, but as a mind that counts and remembers. Who lashes out when ignored? Who smiles while plotting humiliation? Which words precede punishment? You learn to anticipate, to glide through rooms without drawing attention, to exist in plain sight yet remain untouchable in a sense that no one can articulate. It is not magic, it is survival perfected into a skill. At night, when the others are silent or crying softly in the corner, you sit alone in your cell and replay the day. The subtle injustices, the casual violence, the whispered games of power, they become lessons. Each incident teaches patience, calculation, and resilience. You begin to feel the faint pulse of your old self, not gone, only hidden behind layers of careful compliance. It is a ghost, yes, but a conscious one, watching, learning, preparing. You notice the patterns in the newcomers. Their fear is raw, unshaped by experience. They flinch at shadows, tremble under gazes, stammer when spoken to. And you begin to understand the strange duality of this place. It destroys the body, yes, but the mind, if it watches, if it calculates, can remain free in small ways. You teach yourself to separate the two. Your body obeys, your mind observes. Your spirit, hidden behind that split, refuses to vanish. One evening, during a particularly grand gathering, you see a subtle cruelty unfold. A boy is brought forward, younger than you, his hands trembling as he serves wine. A guest laughs, a light, polite sound, but the undertone is sharpened with disdain. The boy falters. The room holds its breath. You watch, your heart tightening, not with helplessness, but with strategy. You make a note the hand that guided him, the tone that cut him. Next time, you will intervene in a small, imperceptible way. Perhaps a step in the shadows, a distraction, a subtle glance. Something that keeps him whole just a little longer. This is your act of rebellion, your proof that some part of you remains untouchable. Not a shout, not a strike, but observation as resistance. And it is potent. The boy will survive tonight. He will not be broken as easily. You allow yourself a small, silent satisfaction, knowing that even within the walls designed to erase humanity, you have planted a seed of endurance. Days merge. Weeks pass. The rhythm is relentless, but your awareness grows sharper. You notice the habits of those in power, which gestures conceal a threat, which words precede violence, which smiles are veils for cruelty. You track them, catalog them, commit them to memory. Each observation strengthens your ability to navigate, to survive, to exist in a world that seeks to erase your identity. And in the quietest moments, when your cell is dark and your breath echoes in the stone, you remember your past, not in full, but in fragments: the pine, scented forests, the laughter of siblings, the taste of sunlight on your face. These memories are dangerous, yes, for they make you ache with longing, but they are also your shield. They remind you that you are more than the polished mask they demand. You are a shadow of yourself, yes, but shadows remember the light. You begin to teach the younger ones without words. A glance here, a subtle gesture there. When a boy flinches too sharply at a raised hand, you shift a tray, adjust his posture, steady his hands. No one notices. No one understands. But slowly, quietly, you are shaping survival into something more than obedience. It is a network of whispered resistance, small acts of preservation that defy erasure. Sometimes you imagine what freedom might feel like. It is hazy, distant, almost a dream. But the thought strengthens rather than weakens you. You realize that true survival is not merely enduring the body's suffering. It is nurturing the mind, the memory, the spirit. It is ensuring that even in darkness, a spark persists unbroken. By now, you are no longer merely a boy forced to comply. You are a presence, a silent guardian, a witness. And, in your mind, you begin to prepare for what may come the day when your body will be spent, but your knowledge, your memory, your quiet acts of rebellion may pass to another. You are learning that survival is never just about oneself. It is about the fragments of humanity you can preserve for others. And so you continue, moving through polished halls, observing, recording, guiding. You are still trapped, still bound by stone and command, but the prison does not reach your mind. You are a shadow in the light, unseen yet present, and in that duality you find power. The mine of obedience has no sunlight, yet in its shadows, small lights begin to flicker. They are not torches or candles, but glances, gestures, whispers that carry more weight than any command. You have survived long enough to understand that survival alone is hollow. It is not enough to endure. One must preserve the fragments of humanity that remain. The younger boys arrive trembling, eyes wide with terror, hands clenching imaginary weapons against the world that has already taken so much. You watch them, noting the fear in their movements, the hesitation in their speech. It is familiar, achingly familiar, the fear that once lived inside you. You realize that while the masters control bodies, they cannot entirely extinguish the mind. And here, in this understanding, the first act of quiet rebellion is born. You begin to teach without speaking. A tilt of the head, a shift of weight, a steadying hand on trembling shoulders. The smallest gestures become lessons in endurance, in navigating the cruelty that surrounds them. Thyman nods once in approval. Nico merely observes with a silent, distant acknowledgement. They have learned what you have, that survival is not obedience alone, but the knowledge you carry and pass on. Night brings its own challenges. The gatherings above are loud with laughter, sharp with the subtle cruelty of games played with human lives. The new boys flinch at every hand, every gaze, every whispered jest. You watch, recording patterns, predicting outcomes. And when one boy falters, a hand shifts, a tray is steadied, a breath is held just long enough to prevent the breaking point. These acts are invisible, unnoticed by the masters, but monumental to those who receive them. In the quiet of the cells, stories are exchanged in whispers. They are fragments, bits of memory, songs remembered, names spoken softly. A fisherman's son hums a tune from the sea. A baker's apprentice recounts the scent of fresh bread in his old home. These shared stories are more than nostalgia. They are defiance. Every word, every memory preserved is a refusal to vanish completely. And in the telling, trust begins to grow. You see the boy with eyes like yours used to be. He struggles with the weight of expectation, his body trembling under commands that once crushed you. You approach silently, offering guidance without words. A tilt of a head, a shift of posture, a subtle demonstration of confidence. It is enough. He mirrors your movements, learns the rhythms of survival, and begins to find his footing. You allow yourself a quiet satisfaction, not pride, but acknowledgement that something essential persists. Humanity. Conflict is never absent. Punishments are swift, harsh, and random. A slip, a hesitation, a misstep. Each has consequences that ripple through the small community of survivors. Yet, even amid this, the bonds grow stronger. A shared glance during a meal, a subtle nod as trays are passed, a hidden crumb of bread given without the master's notice. These are the acts that remind you even in darkness, life persists. One day, a boy collapses under the weight of work. The overseers do not notice immediately, distracted by their own power games. You and the others move quickly, providing water, steadying him, sharing the minimal rations that are yours. No words are needed. Your actions speak, and the boy's survival becomes a quiet victory for all of you. The masters, of course, remain blind to these small rebellions. They see only bodies, obedience, polished surfaces. But beneath those surfaces, the currents of memory and care flow strong. You have learned that resistance does not always roar. It whispers, it nudges, it protects. In stolen moments, you teach the boy with the familiar eyes about the world above. The markets, the mountains, the streams. You speak not of freedom, for that is a dangerous word, but of what exists outside the wall's laughter. Sunlight, air that smells of pine. It is a story of survival, a vision of life remembered, a faint spark to carry through endless nights. Each day, each shared memory, each small act of guidance strengthens a network of quiet rebellion. You begin to understand something profound. Even the most controlled environment cannot erase the human need to connect, to protect, to preserve. These small acts become your lifeline, your legacy, your silent assertion that you, and those like you, still matter. The rhythm of survival continues, but now it is shared. You are no longer entirely alone, no longer merely a shadow moving through polished halls and dark corridors. You are part of a web of resistance, invisible to the masters, yet vibrant, alive, enduring. And in that realization, even the weight of obedience, the constant vigilance, the relentless pressure, feels lighter. Night falls. The boys settle in their cells, whispers carrying across stone walls. You close your eyes briefly, not in sleep, but in quiet reflection. For the first time in many cycles of day and night, the burden feels shared. You are not just surviving, you are sustaining something far greater. Memory, trust, and humanity. These are your victories, however small. And somewhere in the quiet, a faint thought takes root, even in darkness. Bonds form, and in bonds there is power. Power that the masters will never see, control they cannot exert. In these moments, you understand that while your body may belong to them, your mind, your care, your influence will remain untouchable. Years have passed, though time here is meaningless. You no longer mark days by sunrises or birthdays, but by faces. New boys arriving, older ones fading, and the silent rhythm of survival that defines life in these walls. Your body bears the scars, both visible and hidden, reminders of obedience enforced and pain endured. Yet your mind, the part they could never fully control, has become a repository of stories, memories, and lessons. The boy you guided, now stronger, moves through the halls with a quiet confidence. He still trembles at raised hands, still flinches at sharp words, but he knows, he understands, that survival is not just obedience. It is awareness, it is memory, it is the small acts of care that keep humanity alive. You watch him from the shadows, invisible yet ever present, a silent mentor passing on what the masters could never take. Other boys, too, begin to remember and whisper. Names of lost mothers, songs from distant villages, tales of home that the world above has already forgotten. Each story is a thread, delicate yet unbroken, weaving a tapestry of resistance that the masters cannot see. It is in these moments that you understand the truth power is not only in dominance or cruelty, but in preservation, in the quiet persistence of memory. Your body, weakened by years of service, labor, and silent suffering, signals its limits. You cough constantly, a reminder that time is finite, that even endurance has its price. And yet, for the first time in decades, fear has lost its grip. You have become more than a vessel, more than a shadow. You are the keeper of stories, the invisible force guiding others through the darkness. One evening, As torches flicker across stone walls, the boy approaches you. He does not speak of freedom, nor of escape, but of memory. "Will you tell me everything?" he asks, voice low, eyes searching. And you do. Slowly, piece by piece, you recount your life, the house on the hill, the gatherings filled with laughter and cruelty, the nights of obedience, the small victories, and the whispered lessons. You tell him not as a boy begging to be remembered, but as a witness ensuring that what was endured will not vanish entirely. He listens. He asks questions, not out of curiosity alone, but out of need. Need to understand, to preserve, to carry forward what has been hidden, what has been suppressed. And in his attention, you feel the faintest warmth. The first sense of connection that feels unbroken, untainted by the master's control. You see the spark of understanding in his eyes, the determination to hold what you give him, to protect what remains. As your body weakens further, your awareness sharpens. Every act of care, every shared story, every silent gesture has become a form of immortality. The masters believe they own you, yet they cannot claim your mind, your memories, your influence. These are yours, and through the boys you guide, they will persist long after your body ceases to move. You think of the mountains, the rivers, the forests of your childhood, not as a longing for escape, but as markers of what must be preserved. The laughter of siblings, the touch of a father's hand, the songs of home, these are treasures, fragments of humanity that cannot be stolen, even by cruelty. And now, in a new form, they are seeds planted in others. Your last days are quiet. The mines and halls continue their relentless rhythm, yet you move through them with a detached clarity. Pain is present, but no longer dominates. Memory guides every step. Each glance exchanged, each whispered instruction, each silent act of guidance becomes your legacy. You are passing the torch, not of freedom, but of survival, resilience, and remembrance. When the final moment comes, it is not dramatic. There is no ceremony, no applause, no recognition. Just stillness. Your breath fades, your body rests, but your mind, what you have preserved, what you have shared, remains. The boy, now steady in his steps and posture, holds the essence of your story. He will carry it, not as a burden, but as a guide. The whispers will continue, each one a thread in a tapestry of resistance that the masters cannot destroy. In the darkness, in the shadows, the story lives. It lives in memory, in subtle acts of care, in the courage of those who endure. Centuries may pass. Walls may crumble, cities may fall, languages may die. Yet the essence of what you preserved, the humanity, the knowledge, the defiance, cannot be erased. This is your legacy, not in marble or gold, not in scrolls or history books, but in the fragile, persistent spirit of those who continue. The master's cruelty, once absolute, is mitigated by the quiet endurance of human connection. Even in the bleakest shadows, memory and care persist, defying erasure, preserving humanity against impossible odds. And so, in the final whisper of life, you understand survival was never just for yourself. It was for all who come after, all who will remember, all who will carry forward the spark that even the darkest walls could not destroy. You are gone. And yet, through memory, through resistance, through whispered stories, you endure. If you have stories you want to see brought to life, let us know, and we'll craft them just for you. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more tales that reveal the hidden shadows of history.